Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Faithful, the final whistle blew, the stadium lights were still glowing, and reporters were sprinting toward the locker room because there was simply too much breaking news to process in real time. The 49ers didn't just beat the Chargers last night, they tied a franchise preseason scoring record doing it, and buried inside that lopsided victory was a genuinely eerie full-circle storyline involving a legendary former head coach, a stunning off-field bombshell involving a starting offensive lineman, and a handful of roster battles that got blown wide open in the span of just a few hours. If you thought this was just another meaningless preseason tune-up, think again, because the fallout from this game is going to shape roster decisions for weeks to come. Let's break it all down. Let's start with the man under center, because Brock Purdy delivered exactly the kind of buttoned-up, mistake-free debut every 49ers fan wanted to see. He logged precisely 12 snaps across his opening drive, which lines up perfectly with the head coach's well-documented preference for limiting his starting quarterback's exposure during this particular week of the preseason schedule. No rust visible, no scares, no injury concerns, just clean, efficient quarterback play. Connecting 3 times with rookie sensation Deshaun Strebling in that limited window. And here's a claim worth sitting with for a second. According to a reporter who has personally covered this franchise for an entire decade, Strebling might already possess the strongest set of hands of any rookie wide receiver they've witnessed in that entire 10-year span. That is an enormous statement. Sure, he did drop one pass later in the game off a throw from backup quarterback Mac Jones, a pass that would have gone for a touchdown, but context matters here. This same receiver was reported to have dropped only a single pass across his entire final college season. If anything, that one drop might just end up quietly helping fantasy football managers scoop him up a round or two later than they otherwise would have. Now here's where the night got genuinely eerie in the best possible way. This particular preseason performance tied a franchise record for most points scored in a single preseason game, a mark that was originally set all the way back in 2013. And who was roaming the sideline as head coach when that very first record-setting outburst happened? None other than the legendary figure who now, over a decade later, was standing on the opposite sideline as the Chargers head coach for this exact rematch. Talk about football coming full circle. Adding another delicious layer to the coincidence, this same opposing team's offense trotted out a former 49ers first-round quarterback bust turned reclamation project, giving fans an unusual sense of déjà vu watching a former San Francisco signal caller sling passes against his old team from across the field. But let's rewind to the actual meat of the game, because there was a specific defensive sequence that deserves way more attention than it's currently getting. The Chargers' actual starting quarterback got exactly one series of live action against San Francisco's defense, and it's worth noting this wasn't technically San Francisco's true starting defense either, since 2 of their most important defensive difference makers sat out entirely. Yet in that brief 3-play sample, the defense went out and completely erased the exact issues that had reportedly plagued them just days earlier in joint practice sessions against this same opponent. On the opening play, a Chargers running back had been gashing San Francisco defenders to the perimeter during that earlier joint practice, but in the actual game, the edge got set clean, the play got cleaned up in the backfield, and the running lane simply wasn't there. On the very next play, the Chargers tried working the flat with their tight end, and a San Francisco defensive back came up and delivered a picture-perfect open field tackle to prevent any additional damage. And on 3rd down, tight coverage in the secondary forced an incompletion, sending the Chargers offense off the field having accomplished essentially nothing. For a defense missing 2 of its most important centerpiece players, that's an enormous confidence-building sequence heading into the final stretch of preseason prep. Speaking of defensive standouts, one particular interior defensive lineman is generating some serious buzz right now, and fans are only getting a small taste of what's coming. In limited action during this game, plus what's being described as a genuinely dominant showing during a recent joint practice session against this same opponent. Reportedly racking up somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 or 6 would-be sacks in that practice alone, this player looks like he's about to become appointment viewing once the tape gets broken down. If you're looking for a stock to buy before everyone else catches on, this defensive lineman might be it. Now, let's get into the roster battle that has genuinely thrown the entire fan base into a state of confusion, the left guard competition. Rookie Carver Willis got the start at that spot and played deep into the game, and on the surface, that looks like a clear signal he's taking control of the job. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Another sneaky candidate in that same competition. Veteran offensive lineman Austin Pleasance had actually been starting at left tackle in place of the team's franchise left tackle, only to get shifted over to left guard mid-game as part of the ongoing evaluation process. And then, in a cruel twist, Pleasance appeared to suffer an injury in the second half. The severity is still unknown, and if it turns out to be serious, it could effectively eliminate him from the left guard conversation entirely, clearing an even more obvious runway for the rookie to seize control of that job. And in an absolutely bizarre subplot buried within all of this, the team's presumed starting right guard was reportedly arrested on the very same day as this game, opening the door for Connor Colby to step into that spot on the right side instead. Between an in-game injury and an off-field arrest, this offensive line picture just got dramatically reshuffled within the span of a single afternoon and evening. Injuries didn't stop there. Unfortunately, cornerback Renardo Green appears to have tweaked his hamstring, with further imaging scheduled for the following day to determine the severity. If he ends up missing any real time, veteran cornerback Jack Jones is next in line to step up, and based on this performance that should be reassuring news for the coaching staff, Jones delivered a beautiful pass breakup in the end zone on a contested jump ball situation, continuing what has reportedly been a strong training camp and preseason run for him overall. It's exactly the kind of veteran insurance policy teams pay for at the cornerback position, and it's paying off. Unfortunately, the injury bug also caught up with linebacker Nick Martin, who is dealing with a hamstring issue of his own that will also require imaging. That's a particularly tough break for Martin, considering he was the very player responsible for forcing the game's pivotal fumble on special teams earlier in the night, a fumble that was scooped up for extra points off the turnover. Martin doesn't have the same jaw-dropping physical measurables as the team's freakishly long-limbed rookie linebacker, but he plays with a relentless, missile-like energy that has the special teams coordinator surely salivating, especially given his blazing straight-line speed. Now let's talk about the backfield, because this might be the single most encouraging development of the entire night for San Francisco's long-term offensive outlook. Third-round rookie running back Kalen Black finally got to experience live tackling for the very first time as a professional, since practice settings simply don't allow players to actually be brought to the ground. And the results were exactly what evaluators were hoping to see. On 8 total carries for 33 yards, Black was consistently finding extra yardage after initial contact, showcasing the exact tackle-breaking trait that made him such a coveted prospect coming out of college, where he reportedly averaged an eye-popping 3.2 yards after contact per carry. Multiple observers have already begun comparing his running style to a beloved, bruising former 49ers workhorse back from years past, and if that comparison holds up over a larger sample size. This rookie might end up being the best complementary running back this franchise has had behind their current star lead back since acquiring him back in 2022. It's a remarkable turnaround in public perception, too. Plenty of fans were initially frustrated when this team used premium draft capital on both Strebling and Black, fixated on outside mock draft grades rather than actual game tape. Now that people are watching these two players perform in real, live football settings, that early skepticism has almost entirely evaporated. Elsewhere in the backfield, veteran journeyman running back Sincere McCormick delivered a performance that could not have come at a better time for his own roster chances. With the team's other depth running back now landing on season-ending injured reserve, an open spot on the 53-man roster has suddenly materialized, and McCormick, at just 25 years old, despite already having played for 5 different NFL organizations, made the absolute most of his opportunity. He turned in a pinball-like touchdown run following a spectacular 37-yard burst down the sideline, aided by 2 excellent blocks. One from a tight end filling in at fullback who may have just punched his own ticket onto the roster with that exact kind of versatile winning play, and another from a wide receiver who later caught his own touchdown in the second half. Watching McCormick fight for a roster spot in real time, coming off a career path that has bounced him around the league for years, is exactly the kind of storyline that makes preseason football worth watching. Signed and re-signed running back Khalil Herbert also found the end zone in this game, continuing to make a compelling case for his own spot on the roster. Let's shift to receivers for a moment, because Jordan Watkins added another touchdown to his growing preseason resume, hauling in a scoring grab from backup quarterback Adrian Martinez on a well-designed short post route. He's considered close to a lock to make this roster, but there remains a clear area for growth. He's still leaving some contested catches over the middle on the field, including one particular target in this very game where a defensive back was able to break up the pass before Watkins could fully secure it. If Watkins wants to firmly claim a starting outside receiver role and by extension allow the team's do-everything gadget weapon to roam more freely across the formation, he'll need to start finishing off more of those difficult, high-traffic catches with consistency. And of course, we can't finish this recap without circling back to the single most electric moment of the entire night, Jacob Cowing's stunning 83-yard punt return touchdown. Beyond the obvious emotional weight of him finally breaking through after missing all of last season with a lingering hamstring issue, there's a fascinating piece of franchise history buried inside this specific accomplishment. San Francisco has not returned a punt for a touchdown in an actual regular season game since 2011, a game, fittingly enough, that was coached by the very same legendary figure who was standing on the opposing sideline for this preseason rematch. So the obvious question hanging over everything now is simple. Can Cowing actually replicate this kind of explosive burst once the games start counting for real? As a traditional receiver, there's a legitimate concern given his shorter frame. When you step back and look at the full picture from this one single game, the number of storylines that got shaken loose is honestly staggering. A franchise scoring record tied under almost poetically full-circle circumstances. A defense that erased its most glaring recent weakness in just 3 plays. A left guard competition thrown into complete chaos by both an in-game injury and a stunning off-field arrest on the very same day. A rookie running back proving in live contact exactly why he was worth the draft investment. A journeyman veteran fighting his way toward a roster spot that didn't exist 24 hours earlier. And a punt returner potentially about to end a franchise-long drought that stretches all the way back to a legendary coach's very first game at the helm. This is precisely why preseason football, for all its flaws, remains must-watch content for any serious fan of this team. If you don't want to miss a single update as final roster decisions approach, you already know the drill. Smash that like button to help this channel reach even more Niners fans just like you. Drop a comment down below and let us know which storyline from tonight surprised you the most, the Harbaugh full circle coincidence, the left guard chaos, or Jacob Cowing's punt return history. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're bringing you fresh 49ers coverage all the way through the rest of the preseason and deep into the regular season grind. Until next time, faithful, keep the faith.